Hello and welcome to a special edition of the In the Money Players podcast. This is our King's Plate All Stakes Pick 5 show. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornital, back with you from the little house on the east side and joined by our reigning Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge champion. He's also the business manager here at In the Money Media. He's Drew Coatney. Drew, what's going on?
I'm good. It's early in the morning, but nothing gets us excited more than the renewal of the King's Plate, or renaming. I don't know exactly what terminology we're going with, but fantastic action at Woodbine on Sunday. A great contest as well offered up. HPI bets, express bets. If you're curious for more, $1,000 bankroll buy-in. Top two are estimated to get Breeders' Cup seats, and the third and fourth place will get NHC seats. It is online only, so if you are perusing the track, you will have to play online, but get involved. I think it's going to be a great day of racing, and I'm just excited that Woodbine gets a day in the spotlight on Sunday.
Going to have a couple between this and the Woodbine Mile card in just a few weeks. I'm going, man. I'm excited. You know, it takes a lot to get me out of Saratoga, but this will do it because I really am excited to see how this works. Now it's sort of a permanent new time. The later in the year seems to work with this field of 17 for the big one. It's going to be a blast. And on this show, we're just going to look at the 5 stakes, but it's a good card. And I'll point out to people, too, there's going to be a mandatory payout in the Super High Five, which goes as the last race. So that's one maybe we'll take a look at on another show. But things start off in this stakes pick 5 with race number 6. It is. And we've got a key prep race for one of the win and you're in races going to be happening on that Woodbine Mile Day, the Natalma. This is the Catch a Glimpse. We've got a field of 11. Who do you like?
Yeah, I think this is a tough one to handicap because there's a lot of the girls in here that are cross-entered in the boys race, which is the Soaring Free. I think the Soaring Free is more open, and they're going to play a little bit of a game of who's going, who's staying. So we're going to have to holler at some of our Woodbine friends to see if the connections know anything or will lay their cards a little bit. But as it is right now, I'm just going to list out horses for both of those. They may be in 2 spots at one time. So disclaimer, but the number 9, A Rosa, is tested on the turf already and is plenty speedy. And I think could get just a clear sailing trip and a step forward again. With so many of these having all-weather experience and not turf yet, I really like the number 9 A Rosa to continue to step forward. The value play for me here is also the number 10 A Rosa. 10-1, made a really nice move against the pace flow in a all-weather race. And today there is a lot of speed. So if A Rosa can't keep up, the number 9, the number 10 should be able to swoop up there. And then I'm also going to use, I think this one is a good horse, the number 5, Ready to Jam at 6-1. Should get a pretty good ground saving trip with all that speed going. Last stop got the job done when making a late move. And then 2 back, even though Timeform has the debut performance for the number 5, Ready to Jam, it's coded as red. I really, just looking visually at the race, didn't appear to be too much of a pace collapse or anything of that nature. Those 3 horses were at the top of the pole, at the top of the lane, and when they came across the wire, it was those 3 again, just stretching themselves out. So that shows to me there was a little bit of a wit against the flow for the number 5, Ready to Jam in that spot. So 3 horses, the 9, the 10, and the 5. Let's hope the body of the field stays together.
I love that way of looking at pace and flow. I used to actually put that in my racing form when it was notable, when it was, or you come up with like little code words for it. Like I might call a race like that a merry-go-round, especially on turf. And, you know, really but sometimes anywhere, but especially on turf, you'll see days where the pace figures don't tell the story of the way the race flowed, exactly like what you're saying. And it's good to have, I want both pieces of data to help make a decision. And in those spots, especially where it's the other way around and it's more of a pace collapse, even if the figures don't say it was that fast, I'll look for those horses that made that early move, and you can sometimes find some goodies that way.
Yeah.
Very funny with these 2 contenders having such similar names. I was with Rosa in this spot. I was impressed by that debut run, going 5.5 on the synth. On pedigree, I think the 6.5 on turf is going to be within her grasp. I just like the fact she was bet a little bit there, going off at 5-1 in that valuable 2-year-old maiden race. And I think there's plenty of speed in here, and that she's going to be able to come running, and the added ground will be her friend. I'm going with one of your three, the 10 Rosa. You had it 9, 10, and 5 to kick off the All Stakes Pick 5, which continues with the Grade 3 Bold Venture, a race going 6.5 on the synthetic that I was more drawn to the favorites. And one question in here is, what are the tactics going to be between the Marty Drexler runners? And after looking at it enough, I came up with the idea that maybe Super Watson will just be able to trip out in this spot and get the job done. Has a couple of these on form previously, winning type of a horse with 8 wins in the 29 career starts, has not succeeded at the stakes level, but I thought might get the right kind of trip, especially if they use little team tactics. And Old Chestnut, who's also quite logical, is ridden a little bit more aggressively. We'll see how it plays out here in race number 7. How did you have it, my friend?
Yeah, I did like the number 9, Old Chestnut. I think this one has run some superior figures to the stablemate Super Watson over the all-weather. And those two coming back April and May of 2023 really proved quite well, even though couldn't quite get the job done in one of them. But I just think overall, figures-wise, the pace race shapes up really well. Super Watson's going to have to work out a perfect trip from there. It is notable, though, that Super Watson sticks, or Kimura sticks with Super Watson here. So maybe there's a little signal in that with Drexler saying, take Kimura, take Super Watson. You know how to ride this horse better. You're going to get us into the winner's circle. I will say number 5, Patches O'Houlihan, is my backup. What a fun horse to come figure out. Facing older for the first time in stakes company, worked his way through the N2Ls, the N3Ls fairly easily, and then faced off in a couple of listed stakes races for 3-year-olds. I think could be loose on the lead here, and we'll really see the test if Patches O'Houlihan can take it. 3-1 feels like a really square price for what is going to be a horse on the lead. So I'm skinny here with just the 9 and the 5 to try and get through this race.
Let's move on to race number 8 in the Soaring Free. This was the one we talked about before. The boys version, we have some cross-entered horses doing the 6.5 on the turf for the 2-year-olds. We'll keep it with you.
Yeah, I only need 2 in here. The number 4, Ready to Jam, 8-1, which we already talked about. I think, again, gets a nice ground-saving trip and has that closing kick, as I already mentioned. But the number 1, Rhapsody at 3-1, could just be loose and has a reason to improve second start. So I'm not very creative on the Rhapsody front here, but the number 4, Ready to Jam, will be on some of my tickets as well if this one scratches out of the catch a glimpse.
I was with you on Rhapsody, potentially having that pace advantage, that ability to get loose. Feels like one on pedigree is going to have absolutely no trouble with the extra half back in 50 days. Just feels like one that's laid out for this, for the X-Men Madiket partnership. I thought Rhapsody definitely was worth pressing up in here. I'll take another look at Ready to Jam if that one ends up going. But this felt like a race to me where I had questions about anybody's ability to close. And when I have that, it'll lead me to the one I think is the best speed. And I think that's pretty clearly Rhapsody in this spot. Let's move on to our 9th race. We're getting close to the big one, the King's Plate, but this is the Grade 2 Dance Smartly. Fillies and mares 3 and up, a mile and a 16th. Return to the races of an old favorite of ours, Moira. Are you with her or against her in this?
I'm with her. And I was about to say our old friend Moira. She ain't old. She's only 4 years old. So it does feel like an old-timey name for us on this podcast, but it has tactical speed and best overall numbers. The back class really does help for this one. And last out tangled with Fev Rover, and we saw what Fev Rover did over at Colonial Downs last weekend. She pressed the pace and tired while Fev Rover swooped up and took over things. So today, I think she should get a very nice go of it and revert to that old form we saw in 2022. The only real blemish is to be ashamed of is losing to Super Hoity-Toity or Super Hoity over the all-weather in the Bell Mahone Stakes, but Super Hoity, or whatever the heck that horse's name is, got away with very, very soft fractions. Super Hoity-Toity is the horse's name, the number 1 on the rail. That horse got away with super soft fractions. Moira was trying to close into off of the long break, couldn't get the job done. I'm excusing that. I think Moira gets back to form and should be good. The other horse I'll use is a bit of a wild card. That Salima, I believe the number 7 in here at 3-1, pressing the pace of the outside horse, Miss Darcy's, and will get the first jump. So kind of right off the hip of Miss Darcy's and get that jump.
You weren't a Game of Thrones fan, Drew?
No, sort of.
Miss Dracarys. Miss Dracarys. It's a Game of Thrones name.
No idea. And so Chad Brown, Kimura, the connections fit. Distance, this horse is 3 for 3. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where the tote board goes between Moira and some of the more known connections coming in to Woodbine, like Salima.
Yeah, Salima's interesting for sure as a potential best speed, but I ultimately think it's going to be Moira today. I'm very excited to get to see her in person again. I liked the last run a lot, and making a move into the fast part of that race. Fevrover obviously backed up that form significantly in the Beverly D. Third off the bench. I think it's going to be Moira's day in the sun once again. Last year's Queen's Plate winner competing on the King's Plate card. That's just also very cool to see. I don't mind that idea of backing up with Salima at all. Needs no introduction and looks like the best speed. We'll wrap it up with the King's Plate field of 17 with the 2 AEs. Very, very cool stuff. Kalik, I can't decide how we're supposed to say it. I forget. Named after the Bahamian beer, and a horse that was just, I think, extended a little bit too far the last day in the Belmont Derby in terms of class and distance against those killers from that day, Farbridge and the Foxes. But I think here against Ontario breds, this horse just looks like, to me, he's going to get back to winning ways. I don't really want as a heavy favorite, but 3-1 I feel like is reasonable on this runner. I know you have a big long shot. You teased that, but haven't told us who it is yet. It's time to put the cards on the table, Drew.
Yeah. So this is going to be a bit of a dissertation here, as I feel like finding value at Woodbine requires a lot of replay work. Ground loss really matters on the all-weather, and I think this is going to be the most testing trip with the pace, with the big field, and who can figure out how to close as they come down the lane late. So I'm going with the number 13, Cool Kiss, at 30-1.
Number 12.
Sorry. I was doing this before the numbers came out. Thank you. The number 12, Cool Kiss. Really needs a pace to run into. And looking at the running lines, it's fairly like ho-hum, like what am I on about with this? But in the plate trial, launched a massive big bid, going very wide to battle home second for some of the runners who saved all of the ground. And I thought that was a really great effort stretching out for this spot. So that kind of gives me a little bit of confidence. There might be some talent here, losing as much ground as this one did. Then the Queenston was off very slow in the 7 furlong event, and yet again had another ground loss trip with a massive wide bid and the huge gallop out. That shorter distance, right, sprinters and this type of like plodding type of horse, British Royalty comes to mind, will be in touch with the field more. I don't expect that. And then the Coronation Futurity, last start as a 2-year-old, we have to go back a few more, was a horrendous race and still ran on well. Reared out of the gate. I haven't seen him rear that bad in a while, where the jockey almost got lost and then rushed up to be checked before entering the far turn. After all that, was able to close into the neutral fractions. So maybe today is the day that this horse puts it all together. I think 30-1 is an easy price to go grab. I think you probably could see 40 or 50-1 on the number 12, Cool Kiss. Needs to run a career best, but Emma Jane gets aboard, and I feel like she has a good head on her shoulders, a good internal clock to work things out. So
I can see it if I squint. I mean, the pedigree makes me a little bit nervous, but the horses run okay going 1 1/8. So maybe that's sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes they do things that the pedigree is a little bit iffy about.
Yeah, 2 things need to go right. This horse needs to run a career best by a long shot, and the pace needs to get so ugly up front that things start to fall apart with Kalik, getting hammer and tongs up front with some others. I will use Kalik for everything you've said. I think this horse's back class is fantastic, but also the number 8 Wickenheiser at 12-1 continues to get better in every start. Last out made a really early move after being well far back and wound up passing horses and then flattening out. But today's pace and the added distance, I think, could suit pretty nicely as a one-run type in the number 8 Wickenheiser, which I think is going to be the wise guy's horse for a lot of folks. I could imagine this horse getting bet down to 8-1-ish, which may put me off. But the number 12 Cool Kiss is my big play of the day.
I love it.
King's Play.
No, it's a compelling case for a long shot for sure. Yeah, I'm with the favorite there. I definitely see Wickenheiser as one you might want to use in your exotics as well. But I'm just concerned, like the come home time wasn't strong enough to make me want to pick Wickenheiser over Kalik in the plate. Great stuff, Drew. Always good talking to you about this stuff. If we get a chance, who knows? Maybe we'll do some plus in the money plus content on that super high five or something else, or looking elsewhere on the card, because it's a good card. I'll be up there. I'll be on TV. So the more I look at it in advance, the better off it is for me. Looking forward to this big day with our friends up at Woodbine, and looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Fly the ITM jet to come pick me up, please.
Not yet. When that day comes, I don't think that day is going to come. I mean, because if we had that much money, I think we'd probably find better ways to spend it. But it's a fun fantasy. For Drew Coatney, for our friends at Woodbine, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal. May you win all your photos.